Well, good morning. Yeah, I gotta have the air conditioner on because it's gonna be triple digits, 110, and I don't like it because the air conditioners really aren't keeping up with that very well. I'm still working on making the system more efficient so I can survive these hotter temperatures. Either that or I'm just gonna have to get another rig with more air conditioners. Well, what I wanted to bring to your attention is why the government doesn't work. Yeah, I know, as if I can answer that, right? And I apologize for the noise in the background. And I'm sure you can hear Jaws working on her bone. She's having a good time, mouth wide open, as she's got it on her back teeth. It gives her great satisfaction. The government doesn't work because it's not our government. I don't know how to present this to you, but the fact is that our government has been destroyed a long time ago. And as a matter of fact, the country's been destroyed, and the only way to save the country is to restore the original structure our founders gave us. And I know you're going to say, oh, it's impossible, John. It's impossible, Dr. Kent. It will never happen. I got news for you. That's the only way we're going to pull out of this. Why? Because we're not going to be able to agree upon anything else. So we need to chop this government down in size. Let me give you just one way that this government doesn't work for us. According to the Constitution, there's nothing about 3 co-equal branches of government. That's some bullshit that these dumbasses thought up, and they keep spewing it off. They are not co-equal branches of government. I don't give a damn what you say. All you have to do is read the Constitution and see what powers were given them. And if you bother to read it at all, you'll figure out that the weakest branch of the government is the Supreme Court. And the most powerful branch of the government is the Congress. The president is not supposed to be the most powerful branch. The executive is not supposed to be the most powerful. We have had a number of unconstitutional wars that are illegal. And we've been manipulated into these wars by the bankers. The bankers control our money supply. We don't have money. There's no real money. That's another thing, is that we were founded based upon real money, biblical money, gold and silver coins. And that's still the only thing that is lawfully money. And when you have a store of wealth that can't be counterfeited, then the government has to mind its P's and Q's, and it can't grow at an outrageous rate, like at a cancerous rate. So what do we need to do? We need to get somebody in office who's willing to be a hatchet man and chop the hell out of this thing. And I'm not joking. There's no other way to salvation for America. They screwed us up and turned us into a bunch of corporations in a giant shell game. I do not like that. Let me see if I can get rid of that. Oh, yeah, that's better yet. I think that's much better. So, another way it doesn't work is that your president is not your commander-in-chief until and unless the Congress drafts him to wage a war. So the Congress must vote to wage war first, and then draft the president, who has to be willing to serve in that capacity, and then he becomes commander-in-chief. See, you've got this trigger-happy administrative kind of thing with one hell of a war machine in charge of it. We aren't in charge of this at all. I think the Pentagon's running the country more than the Oval Office is. Maybe we should thank God for that, because I think the people at the Pentagon, the generals, finally decide, yeah, screw Blinken, man. He's going to get us nuked. This guy's a dumbass. We need to collar him. But we got a lot of dumbasses there. We need to return to constitutional money. then we'll have a store of wealth. And I know you're going to say, well, we have to be able to borrow money so we can wage war. Do we really have to wage war? Did you know that this country has been compromised by all of these consecutive presidents so that you are unable to wage war? You no longer have an industrial base. So you can't even change the industrial base over to war machine, you know, to making military hardware. You can't even replenish what's going on. And in case you're wondering, the way they're waging war in the Ukraine is purposeful to destroy us. We're the prize. Taiwan's not the prize. The Ukraine's not the prize. Although Bibi and his boys want the Ukraine back because that's where they really came from. Their homelands are ancient Khazaria. You see, they're actually Turkish Mongolian. They're not Semitic. Semitic, man, who gives a rat's ass what that means anymore? A Semite is it's a classification based upon language. The people who are Semitic speak Semitic languages. That's all there is to it. It had nothing to do with race or religion, okay, or nationality to a certain extent. So the real drag is that the Palestinians are Semites. And yet the Israelis are Turkish Mongolian descendants of the Khazarians. And they're calling the rest of us anti-Semitic. And they aren't even Semitic. My Jewish friends on Facebook will get upset with me because they say, well, my friends are saying we shouldn't be friends with you. Well, why is that? Of course, it's a physician, you know. And I mean, she asked me some questions, and I told her, I says, okay, I'm a Semite. How can I be against myself? What are you? And she tells me she's Ashkenazi. I says, well, that's not even a Semite. What the hell are you talking about, being anti-Semitic? They played a giant con game on the world, on us. They've manipulated the hell out of us. I do not like this churchianity today. Why? Because they set it up to put us in a position where they can keep us down and control us. So we submit to them as if they are our big brothers and they were here first. And the truth is, their religion didn't even exist till about 400 or 600 AD. You got to understand, that stuff was back engineered, edited into the Bible. There are a lot of faux pas, mistakes in the Bible. Some of them are honest mistakes, but most of them are subterfuge. The biggest subterfuging Bible ever was the 1965 printing of the Scofield Reference Study Bible. And I've been looking for one of those, and I wish I'd have bought it a few years ago when one was available. But I didn't buy it. It actually reveals more of the truth than the rest of those do. But the Scofield Reference Study Bible was done by an attorney named Scofield out of Michigan. He was kind of an unethical guy, and he got himself in a lot of trouble. And so he got bailed out by Samuel Untermyer and his committee of rabbis and wealthy Jews. Why? Because they wanted to publish the Bible, and they needed a white, pasty old white guy for a front man again. So they used this fellow that lived in Michigan as the front man. And I can assure you, he probably never ever read the Bible, much less did any translating. And of course, the big lie is in Genesis, and there's more footnotes, side notes, center notes, bottom footnotes in that Bible than there is Bible. And if you read in the margins, it says Moses was a Jew. Basically, that's what's implied, that Moses was a Jew. Really? Moses wasn't a Jew. There were no Jews back then. And most of you get screwed up because of the word Hebrew. Hebrew's good coffee. Hebrew. Because that's one screwed up name. Hebrew means people who are descendants of Eber. Heber. To drop the H, you have Eber. H-E-B-E-R. So the Hebrews are descendants of Eber, and they speak the Hebrew language. Now, before you get too carried off saying how wonderful that language is, now it's the language of God and all that stuff, I'm going to tell you right now, it's none of that stuff. As a matter of fact, the Israelites, or if you insist on that they're Jews, oh my God, there's so much to tell you. And it slipped my mind, and I have to admit it. I get under a little bit of stress and things go like that. Look, the fact is we've all been had, and we've been lied to, and we've been told there's a Judeo-Christian heritage. Our Judeo-Christian heritage. Like the Christianity thing is an afterthought. Well, I don't like the name Christianity because they didn't call each other Christians. They were called Christians by the Roman pagans. And it was a racial slur term, basically. And the pagans, the Romans, felt sorry for this impoverished group because, I mean, they only have one God. Could you imagine going through life in poverty? You only have one God? Why, look at all the gods that we have and we enjoy. How can they deny themselves of all of that? There is no Judeo-Christian tradition. There are Zionist Christians, and unfortunately they just go to the big box churches and they believe what's preached, the lies from the pulpit. They never bother to read the Bible. Sorry. If you're not reading the Bible, you're definitely not understanding the truth. You won't understand current events. You won't understand the future as well. You won't understand, but you won't probably tune into my channel and hang out here for long, which is okay. I just want basically hardcore Bible readers is what I want. I want believers who actually read the Bible. I wish I had a little bit more participation with more comments, but I understand. I'm probably being throttled back. I'm picking up some more subscribers, which is real good. I thought I was going to have a business partner, this woman out of Bakersfield, but she decided to unselect herself. She went racist on me and said some things that weren't historically accurate, and I interrupted her to correct her, and, well, let's put it this way. We weren't very nice to each other. We're both at fault. Although I have to say, she does need to learn to respect. If she can't respect, and I realize now that I avoided biting the bullet, because if she can't respect a man, no wonder nobody's pairing off with her. Women want to rule the roost. That's what happened. That's what happened back in Genesis. Your desire shall be for your husband, Yahweh tells Eve. Somebody left out two words of the Bible. It said your desire shall be to rule over your husband. If I ever make my own interpretation of the Bible, you think I'd get away with slipping those two words in there? The fact is that we all want to dominate. We all want to rule the roost. And the fact is that women are given extra abilities. Why? For the purposes of motherhood. The survival of the species. It's kind of important, don't you think? So women are given this extra capacity that men don't have. The problem is she's got more of a balancing act than a man is ever going to have. She really does require shelter and protection. She requires a safe environment. But she won't give it to herself because she's insisting she dominate the guy, yet she says he's supposed to protect me. Really? Then why don't you just shut up and follow his commands? Why don't you follow his lead? If he tells you to duck, are you going to question him while the bullet's coming in at your head? Or are you going to duck? I mean, he's dedicated his life to defending yours. What more do you want? Oh, you want to rule over his spirit, and you want to diminish his spirit. Not good. How can you ever feel secure if you're going to dominate the guy that's supposed to be your dominant protector? Come on, ladies, make some sense. It's supposed to be a team anyway. You get to help him. You get to influence him. You get to pull everything together. Anyway, our government doesn't work for us anymore because it's not our government. This is not a republic. The number one indication that there's no republic is that the states no longer have representation. And where were the states represented? In the Senate. Until the 17th Amendment, which is unconstitutional and needs to go away. They turned senators into professional politicians, and they made it impossible for us to get rid of them, and they stopped representing the state governments, who actually signed off on the Constitution and authorized the central government. So we have no republic. Don't kid yourselves. Until the senators come directly from the state legislatures of the states that who they represent, there is no republic. So we really do have to restore this. We have to cut this down. All of this wonderful feel-good stuff that we allowed them to add because it made some sense. They sold it to us somehow or other. That was a bad deal. We have to rescind it all. I mean, all of these departments, the Department of Education, that's beyond repair. There's no recovery for it. Don't give me any bullshit about, yeah, we can remake it. We can do it this way or that way. Oh, no, no. It needs to be destroyed. It needs to go away. The cabinet position needs to go away. There needs to be no federal funding for education whatsoever. Only the states should be involved in that. Just like welfare. There's no provisions for the government to steal money from us to give it to some other son of a bitch. It should not happen at the federal level. It should happen really at the county level, to be honest with you. That's where it should be administered, locally. But the federal government is prohibited from that. It needs to go away. What about the the Environmental Protection Agency? Well, there's actually more powerful agencies than that are dominant, that are in the background. But the EPA definitely needs to go away because it's just causing trouble. And all of these standards that our government comes up with, they've all chosen the worst standards possible. It's as if they planned from the get-go, right from the beginning of this country, that they were going to destroy it, and they wanted the whole culture, the whole civilization to disappear from the face of the earth as fast as possible. It's because that's what they did. And you're lied to about fossil fuels. There's no such thing. You need to understand the earth is a giant electromagnetic machine going through space. And the earth has to make the insulator that shows up as oil and becomes coal as well. So the earth makes this, and we should regard it as a mineral. And in case you're wondering, the earth will never run out of it. It's always going to be there. We do not need to do this wasteful fracking with dangerous chemicals and wasting water and harming watersheds. There's no reason for that. Not at all. We drill one well, reopen in Alaska, the pipeline's filled at 100% capacity for 1,500 years. And you don't have to drill in Alaska again. Everything can stay pristine. Oh, you got to build the pipeline out maybe 150 miles or whatever it is to that one well, but what the heck, we can do that in one summer. Then the whole pipeline stays full. Then Alaska can become independent, and we can have the biggest government money can buy. We screwed up. The evil ones talked us into turning our backs on Yahweh. Not only that, they took Yahweh's name out of our Bibles about 274, 275 BC. Ptolemy II in Alexandria, Egypt, the Septuagint. 70 smartasses interpreting the Bible for Ptolemy II. Ptolemy, the inheritor of 1/4 of Alexander the Great's kingdom. But you also need to understand, it appears Ptolemy was an Edomite because he took out the name of Yahweh, and he changed a lot of other things in there too. So they did set traps in that Bible. And even Yahweh in the major prophet, at least 300 years before, maybe even 600 years before Ptolemy produced the Greek Bible. It's important that you realize that there's a good reason for it being a Greek Bible, because the Israelites in dispersion were all talking Greek. We from the northern half of Israel, the house of Israel, the 10 tribes generally speaking, we went north. We did become the Greeks and the Macedonians. And above all, we became the barbarians of Germany that they lie about. And some of those chieftains and warlords had better ethics than Christianity has. You should read about those guys. But that history's been changed by the evil guys. Just like the history's been changed so they can hide their tracks. Eustace Mullins said they've been censoring the literature for at least 3,000 years. I think they've been doing it longer than that. And we are in a battle, good against evil. But the only way we can change things is if we go slowly and reclaim the original structure the founders gave us. We send all these bastards home. Congress, no more pay, no more benefits, no more retirement. There's no need to make them want to stay in office any longer. And we go back, to a simple per diem. To defray, help defray, not pay for the total cost, the cost of room and board for the day served. We need to go back to doing that. That's why we didn't have term limits. We didn't need those. And if the congressman ran out of money, it was expected he would go home, go back to work, and earn money again and support himself. We need to go back to that. We really need to go back to that. They're not co-equal branches of government where the justices get to rule from the bench, and they cannot put together things like the salvation of Obamacare and changing it to make it legal. That was illegal. I'm sorry, but Justice Roberts ought to be gone completely after what he did on that. Of course, his name shows up on the Jeffrey Epstein logs, and he and his partner, I don't know if it's a gay dude or what it is, but they adopted 2 boys, and the circumstances are questionable. Wonder what Epstein had over the Chief Justice. Oh, and by the way, Ghislaine Maxwell was the brains behind that entire operation. Jeffrey was there to protect her. Ghislaine Maxwell's father put Jeffrey in there to protect his daughter. She's the ringleader. And you all run around and assume, oh, it's the man. The man did the bad stuff. The man. No, women aren't pedophiles. They couldn't harm a fly. They won't do anything like that. Come on, man. She got away with it. Got away with it all. She bought the state of New Hampshire. By God, she owns the state of New Hampshire. That's her go-home free card. She's just waiting for a pardon from Joe Biden on his way out. We have to restore our government and reclaim the republic. Our Constitution guarantees not only that we have a Republican form of government, republic form, I should say, but the states are supposed to have republic forms of government. And I think that it's high time that we actually told these states, if you pass any laws against the original 13 amendments. Anything that violates them in the smallest amount, we're going to stop the funding for whatever endeavors are associated with that. So, if you're going to violate some poor kid's educational, whatever, free speech, all that, we're not going to fund your education. That needs to go away anyway. And if you're going to do something untoward about lawful possession of firearms by citizens, or if you're going to stop us from having our militias, you need to actually go to prison on that one. Yeah, and of course, we need to stop sending the money for all of their corrections, all of their security, everything in that state. If you're not going to abide by, well, it's not 10 commandments. It was the Bill of Rights, the 10 amendments. The first 12 were cool, and the 13th was the one that made it or broke it. And unfortunately, that's the one we have to restore. All the others have to go by the wayside. And these three organizations that was founded in 1913 to take us down, that includes the ADL, Anti-Defamation League, which is founded by B'nai B'rith. That includes the FBI, which was called something else back then, but it's unconstitutional as can be. And you can see what the results are having it. And the Federal Reserve System. I think all have to be taken into custody and debriefed. Slowly. Debriefed for hours, for days, for weeks. Kept in solitary. No, they don't. Military type stuff. We don't need to. They're not going to have the standard civil rights at all. Boy, I wish I was president. That's what I'd be doing. And I don't care if you elect Trump. He's going to empower the Federal Reserve even more. Not only that, but he's also going to go to war in Iran for his high school buddy, Bibi, which isn't his real name, by the way. He's got a different name. He's a name changer. And Trump is owned by Shelton, whatever his name was, the rich Jew out of Las Vegas, who passed away, and now his widow is in control of the estate. And so Trump is in her pocket. Trump, just like the entire Congress, is in the pocket of Israel, the false Jews, the Edomites, the Idumeans, Satan and his children, the synagogue of Satan. We can't have Kamala as president. It's just not going to happen. If they try to put her in office, I'm pretty sure that we're going to go to shooting each other. And if we go to shooting each other, we will probably be attacked from outside. And the country will pretty much be over then. I'm just hoping that I can get safe passage. Not sure where I'm going to be calling home. I want you to understand something. You're going to tell me it's impossible. We'll never go back to that. Nothing else is possible. Because we won't agree upon any of this other bullshit that they try to come up with. We don't even need a constitutional convention. What you need is me as president, actually as dictator for a couple of years. Or, dare I say, das Führer. I know that would raise a furor across the whole country if I was called that and I was in office as president. Oh my God. Look at Dr. Kit. It's a skinhead. Look, this is the only way I can do my hair at this point. Nothing else looks good. I miss the long hair. I miss the color in it. But this is what I got, you know, so we'll go with what I got. I need you to understand. A year ago, the local rabbis told their people to prepare because they knew they were going to get targeted. I'm not advocating the targeting of any Jews. Oh, hell no. My Jewish adopted mother, I loved her dearly. She loved me as well. She was super liberal, but she gave me good insights. And she told me all those people in Israel, excuse me, because she'd been there. She traveled quite a bit. She told me they're crazy. If anybody would have known, it would have been me. She would have recognized it for what it was. And she said they were crazy. And of course, what is it? The average American goes over there who's Jewish, who's pissed off, goes there over the right of return, and they settle him in on somebody else's land that they're trying to steal, you know, still. And they give him guns and tell him, well, you got to defend the religion. They turn him into murderers, genocidas. And why can't we all get along? You know, things went much better before that postage stamp of an illegitimate country showed up in the Middle East. Who's the real Israel? Where's the real Israel? The North American continent is the real Israel. Well, maybe not Mexico, but from that border north, that's pretty much Israel. We are the great nation mentioned by Israel in the Bible when he gave the blessing to Manasseh. Then our brother Ephraim became the company of nations, Great Britain. I think that the paths are really clear, and at this point we're totally on the road to ruin, and we will be nuked. I don't think there's any avoiding it at this point. We've become so bad. What do I suggest you do? Don't go to any movies. Shut your television set off. Don't watch the news. Walk your dog during the news hour and talk to people. That's how the revolution occurred in Russia. Let's follow the example of the Russian people. They had dog walking hour. Nobody believed the shit out of their television sets, so they didn't want to waste their time. They walked their dog and talked to each other. That's what Americans need to do, is follow the lead of the Russians. And by the way, they got rid of the Bolshevik problem to a very large extent. Not completely, but to a very large extent, so they're not quite in control, from what I can tell. But at this point, you need to understand, the beast system's everywhere. It is huge. It's a mystery because you can't see it. It's too big. We don't have the ability to comprehend it. Not at all. It is so big, it includes your churches, your organized man-made religions. It includes your education system. That's right, your brainwashing system. And it includes your government, which governs how you think. I think the House of Israel had some pretty good traditions. They didn't like the way things were going. They went home to their tents and said, screw it. We're not going to fight. We're not going to participate in this stuff. Screw you. We're going home. We know what's right, and we're going to do it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with us knowing and doing what is right. And we should share that with the rest of the species on the earth. They should be encouraged to worship Yahweh as well, and read that Bible and get the blessings thereof. Yes, why not? Don't you want them on the same page? Don't you want them prospering? Don't you want them to understand how to behave, how to think very clearly and make fine discriminations of thought? I know you people hate it when I say that. Discrimination means you can tell the difference. And don't you want to be able to tell the difference between the choices in front of you so that you can choose the best way for yourself? That's what the Ten Commandments were all about, baby. That's what most of the Bible is about. We have to restore the original 13th Amendment. It was the law of the land. It was ratified properly. Great Britain managed to do the subterfuge and made us stuck with their British accreditation regency. Leave my shoes alone. Bad dog. Bad dog. I let her chew on it too much and she's... Oh well, what can I say? When she's bored, she gets destructive. I've got to buy her a new vest and get her out in public more. These places are restricting animals and dogs there, which is not a good thing, but that's the way it is. It's too hot. I've got to get a decent vest, though, so I can take her in decent places. I need you to understand, you don't have a choice. From what I can tell, you don't have a choice. You either restore the original structure our founders gave us and become America, or you disappear from the face of the earth. Rather quickly, I might add, because once the nukes start flying, it'll be, oh, let me think, less than 1.25 hours. Less than an hour and 15 minutes before the nukes stop flying, because they will have done all the damage. And those clouds will waft up in the atmosphere, and the nuclear reactors that can no longer stay cool will all melt down, and there'll be dirty releases. And not only that, but every one of these Tesla cars that has cobalt as one of the components in its batteries, when that's irradiated, that remains toxic for far longer than plutonium or uranium-238. It's like a 300,000 year half-life. So that just poisons the North American continent. So it's screwed. We have destroyed our nation. We did that with Wilson giving us the Federal Reserve System. We did that with the Speaker of the House giving us the Federal Reserve System at the time. Bryant, I think was his name. He was very upset with himself because he became Secretary of State. What a corrupt son of a bitch. But that's the problem, is that we're a nation of corrupt sons of a bitches. We lie to each other. We lie to ourselves. We can't even stay in touch with reality anymore because we believe our own lies. We believe our own shit. You have to recover the country one county at a time, according to Thomas Jefferson. Once you lose your republic, you have to regain it and fight for it a county at a time. He gave us a prescription for recovering the republic. We have screwed up and we've allowed our might to be misused across the planet. And it hasn't been just since World War II or World War I, or the war of northern aggression, the Civil War. But even our Revolutionary War, the return to self-rule, it wasn't a rebellion. Even that, the bad guys meddled in that. And of course, who came to our rescue during the Civil War? The Russian Tsar. If it wasn't for the Russians, we wouldn't be a country today. And who came to our rescue back during the Revolutionary War? I believe it was the Russians. I don't know that story quite as well because, you see, it's easy for me to remember that Seward's Folly, the purchase of Alaska, another fraud perpetrated upon all of us, was bought for $7.2 million. No, it wasn't. The $0.2 million was a bribe so it would go through Congress properly. That's how corrupt we are. The 7 million went to the Tsar of Russia to repay him for the cost of his fleet, since he gave us his fleet in both San Francisco and New York, and they defended us. And it was just a 100-year lease on Alaska, which has expired quite a while ago. I want to see Alaska become independent. I believe Alaska's future is as the peacekeeper, and that this country here, this government here, will never allow us to grow, develop our resources or our land, or to prosper at all. And we don't need them. We really don't need them. Oh yes, we can lease out the land for the bases up there and invite them up there to, okay, that's all right. But we don't need their huge government. We don't need their federal mismanagement of our fisheries and our wildlife. We don't need their mismanagement of our lives. We just don't need them telling us when we can't use our resources, like that one well. The one well has got enough back pressure in it. It has 3 centuries worth of oil for the country. Pipeline only carries 20%. That's its maximum capacity. So 3 centuries times 5, 1,500 years worth of oil down the pipeline, which will go to the open market where it should. And it'll get refined over in Asia, where the refineries are built just for refining Alaska crude. And the price of oil, energy, will drop across the board for everybody. And that's very fair. That's very saving. That is a form of salvation right there. You have to reclaim the republic. You have to throw out these errant senators, and they need to be able to be fireable by the state governments when they don't want to vote the way the state government has instructed them. Not only that, but I think we go a step further and we say no more federal pay and benefits for the senators. It all comes from your state government, the people you represent. So that way, every time he gets a check, he gets to see it. Oh, the governor and the Secretary of Treasury for his particular states, they have signed his check. And then he'll be reminded he's subject to being fired in an instant for any reason at all. And that's the way it ought to be. The states need to be in charge of the federal government through the Senate once again. There's nothing in there about lifetime appointments for Supreme Court justices. There is something in there about while under good behavior. And I say that any bad behavior removes a man or a woman from the Supreme Court. Any dumbass behavior, you're going to leak a judgment before it's time. I think that's high treason against the whole country. That's punishable by hanging, public hanging. But it should be at least guaranteeing that somebody's going to be off the Supreme Court, regardless of what their good intentions are. You can't do that. Your Congress is the most powerful branch of government. It has the powers to wage war. It has the powers of the purse. But it's derelict in its duties. And I'd kind of love to see us have a little rule on this first constitutional Congress. I think we limit it to married housewives whose children are adults and are good representatives and reflections upon their families. And these women have managed the household for a couple of decades. They know how to manage a budget. I'd love to see that ability in the Congress. Obviously, nobody there has that ability, but the American housewife who has to budget to make ends meet should make a better Congresswoman than what we got now. We have to take apart large amounts of this government, even though it felt good to do it when we did it. Oh yeah, man, let's do this, do that. We never looked at whether or not it was legal for us to do it, whether or not the government had power to do it. The government doesn't have the power. It's time we started limiting the government's power. It's time we started setting an example for the rest of the world. And they are pissed at us. And I think that they would like it if we got in charge of our government again. We got a handle on our government. We haven't been in control since Woodrow Wilson was elected, quite easily. And you need to realize we've been taken over by our enemies. It says there in Leviticus and Deuteronomy that the stranger among you will rise up and rule over you. Those who hate you will rule over you. That's what's going on. Then at this point, the warnings of our founding fathers not to let a particular group into the country because they would steal it all, well, it's quite true. They have stolen it all. So it's going to be fun restoring all this. I wouldn't mind the job, but you're only going to get 2 years out of me. I'm sorry. I just don't have the stamina to do a 4-year. But I really think the president should be a 6-year position, just like the Confederacy came up with. 1 term, 6 years, and that's it. And the South had other good ideas. When you hit a certain number of population, you had to form another state so you could have other congressmen to represent you. That's why Virginia, which went all the way up into Maine, by the way, the original state of colony of Virginia went up to Maine, it gradually became all of those other states. And that's why West Virginia was formed, because the population was so big. They needed to have more congressional seats. And the South also had another thing, too. If 3 states agreed upon an amendment to the Constitution, it was required that they vote upon it immediately. They put it to a vote. They couldn't wait. They couldn't delay it. They had to put it to a vote. I also think we should return so that nobody votes for anybody else. No proxy votes. Nobody votes in place of anybody else. And if you miss a vote or withhold your vote or a vote present, you don't get the stipend for the day. If you don't serve the full day and do all the voting, you lose the stipend for the day. Well, folks, I'm going to go here. This has been a good long one, I think. Don't want to go this long. But I wanted to tell you how your government's not working for you. And I also wanted to tell you the solution. And I know you're going to argue for this way or that way. I get those arguments all the time. You need to give up your narcissism. You need to give up your ideas. You need to capitulate to the Founding Fathers' structure. Completely. To the Constitution. Literally as written. Up to and including the original 13th Amendment. All the rest of them are null and void for different reasons. But the original 13th Amendment stripped the Bar Association attorneys of any and all citizenship. And they couldn't work in the country. And they weren't allowed to hold office in the country. But we screwed up a year later. And the original notes that prove that it's the law of the land are under lock and key in Great Britain. My first day in office, it would be real simple. You got 60 minutes to return my documents or I'm going to start nuking your ass. I'm tired of the way you've treated us. You're going to free us. And we're definitely going to. Matter of fact, we ought to get a hold of the Chinese. I'm sure the Chinese are pissed off from the Opium War still. And we should get a hold of Russia too. Russia's pretty pissed off at them. And you should be pissed off as well, because they've been running this whole show through their secret societies and their intelligence organizations. And in the background, they've been running us this whole time. Don't kid yourself. Even that king, the queen, they claim they own this place to this day. Let's throw those bastards out once and for all. Throw the British to the curb. May Yahweh bless